Hi, we're Team Who, and here is our video just demoing our project and how it works. So here we have the calc sheet that you can see in front of you. It is currently in the logged out state. And so one of the first changes I think we made was on this page, we went and we added in the login button. We just changed what it says. And if you do log in, now you will see that it'll ask you for a password, but only if your username is admin. And the idea is that in the final version, admin would be looked up from a list of whatever the teachers' names are, if we ever had the funding to add this feature in. It then asks you for a password. You enter your password up there. And then here we come to the second page. And here, again, we've made a few changes here. These front-end UI changes are what I mostly handled. And so here we've put in some logic to check. And to first check if you logged in. And if you are, then this page then asks you if you want to change your username rather than submit. So that makes things a bit clearer. And there's also a logout button so that you can just log out. And this makes it a bit clearer what's happening, especially as before you could have typed in a new username, but if you hadn't pressed the button or pressed enter and you went into a sheet, you would revert to your old name. On this page here, you have a couple of different features. Because you have logged in as an admin, you get this row of buttons at the top: lock all, unlock all, mute chat, and unmute chat, as well as these checkboxes next to every single sheet. And what these do, if you hover over them, it'll tell you. Basically, it informs you that, so this will unmute for all spreadsheets, mute chat will mute for all spreadsheets, and for the lock all and unlock all, it means all things that you have checked will be locked, or all things that you have checked will be unlocked. And so if we click a couple of the sheets and click lock, you will see that a lock icon appears. And if you open the sheet as an admin, it'll still look the same to you. But if you open it as a student instead, you will see that these get grayed out so that you can't enter. If the sheet is locked, you can't enter any text. You can't click any buttons. And if the messenger is locked, then you can't enter any text into the messenger. And so now we're just going to a student account. And so as you see, the page is a bit different. You don't get the checkboxes. You don't get the buttons at the top. But you do still see the locks that tell you which sheets you can't actually work on. And so let's open one of those. And so now on this page, if you remember what the other page looked like, the buttons are a lot less vibrant. That's because they've been grayed out slightly. And this is to prevent the student from being able to do anything. Our approach to the lock is that we have a check when the sheet loads up, and that repeats on set intervals. And if that check ever comes back that, hey, this sheet is locked, it then checks if the user is an admin. And if the answer is no, then we apply a CSS class to the spreadsheet that basically makes it non-interactable, and then applies, I think, a gray gradient over on top with some transparency. There is also a similar thing applied to the messenger, where if you mute chat and then go back to the student view and open the messenger, you'll see that inside the messenger, everything is grayed out. We did apply a CSS class to this to do that, but we also had to change a bit of logic. For example, for the text box, it used to be that even if it was grayed out, if your cursor was in there and you pressed enter, it would have sent anyway, because the CSS class doesn't affect that. And so we added in some logic there to check if it was in that state, and if it was, enter just would return without doing anything. Similarly, we had to add exceptions to the CSS class so the slider would work, so that you could still slide down to the bottom when you got a new message, as well as ensure that the collapse and expand mechanism were outside the range of the CSS. So you can still interact with this fully. You just can't actually send messages. Let's see here. So I think those are most of the features on the student end. And the teacher end. The teacher can still send messages this whole time. And the teacher can still interact with sheets. Oh, yes. And there is also one last feature in that if you go into a sheet as the teacher, you do see 2 extra buttons rendered on the bottom, just so that the teacher doesn't need to return to this main screen every time. Instead, you could lock or unlock your sheet from this page here as well. And so those are most of the methods we've built in for our new feature and how we've implemented them. I was in charge of most of the front end in CSS. I'll now pass it on to my teammates who did the backend communication and the middleware.
I do the middleware. In the middleware is connecting the front end and backend. It get its chat log and its spreadsheet log attributes and send it then to the backend. The backend will verify the admin is the actual admin users or not, and send back the new attributes to the front end. And that's what middleware do.
I did the backend implementation. So for the login system, I implemented a new user controller. If the user is a guest, it can simply log in and save its name in the database. If the user is an admin, I leverage the authentication process to decrypt for the authentication and hash the password to store it secretly in backend. And for the log status, I used some new attributes and some new data structures to store the status of the spreadsheet and the chat messenger. And when the front end requests the data, it will simply send the logged users and the logged status to the front end.
Okay, that will be all for our presentation.
Yeah, thanks for watching.